Welcome to the Vegan Pulse. I am your host, Nancy Arenas. Today, my guest is Dr. Richard Schwartz. He is President Emeritus of Jewish Veg and President of the Society of Ethical and Religious Vegetarians. He is also a Professor Emeritus at the College of Staten Island, and he recently authored the book, Vegan Revolution. Stick around, I'd like to introduce him to you. Hi, Dr. Schwartz, how are you?
Okay, really great. Many thanks for this opportunity to be on your program.
Thank you so much for being on the Vegan Pulse. I appreciate that. I would like to ask you, how did you come about to veganism?
Right. Actually, a number of years ago, now it's like 30 or so years, I was teaching a course in mathematics at the College of Staten Island, and I was teaching liberal arts and science students, that going for music and the arts. They were not very well prepared or motivated for math, but they had to take one math course to meet a degree requirement. And I came up with this idea of a course called Mathematics and the Environment. And it was really unique starting, and I had to even write a textbook, Math and Global Survival, which I updated every few years because it was based on everyday news and all. And of course, we were discussing world hunger. First, I thought it's tragic, it's a shame, but what can we do? Can't get enough food for all the people. Then I read this wonderful, wonderful book by Frances Moore Pay, you may be familiar with, called Diet for a Small Planet. And she pointed out how wasteful animal-based diets are. For example, with millions of people starving or chronically hungry, over 70% of the grain produced in the U.S. is fed to animals destined for slaughter. It's tremendously wasteful, makes it even more shameful. We take healthy foods like soy and oats and corn, high in fiber and complex carbohydrates, devoid of cholesterol and saturated fat. Feeds the animals, we get very unhealthy, just the opposite. Okay, so after discussing with the students a number of terms, the idea that we could reduce hunger quite a bit, shifting to a plant-based diet, took my own advice, slowly but surely gave up cold cuts and then red meat, chicken, etc. Became a vegetarian, I think, in 1978. And it took me a while, but in 2000 became a vegan. And the message was so strong, I thought I had to get it out. There were no books on letting Judaism to vegetarian, a lot of very good books in general. So in 1982, we wrote the first edition, Judaism and Vegetarianism. And most recently, my most recent book here, Vegan Revolution, Saving Our World and Revitalizing Judaism. So that's a quick summary of my path.
That is great. One of my teachers, Mr. Richard Chigger, I'm from New York as well, and he did that. He moved to Long Island and he was teaching humane education. And what he did was he used those subjects, social studies, and then he related to animals and English, but he used animals and climate change and all those ideas to introduce them to the students. I think that that's very innovative. And it's great to hear that that's what you were doing as well.
Right. There's such a powerful case for vegetarianism, and even more so for veganism, in terms of how terrible the animals are kept. All the life-threatening diseases, we could cut the disease rate for cancer, heart disease so much. And perhaps most important today, the most critical issue facing the world is climate change threats. And a lot of people know automobiles are a problem, factories. They don't realize that animal-based agriculture is one of the major contributors to global warming, climate change, largely because of methane, a very potent greenhouse gas emitted by cows and other farmed animals.
It's so great to know that you are trying to raise the issue of plant-based diet for the Jewish community, but really for the world at large.
Oh, absolutely. I'm also president of a group called Society of Ethical and Religious Vegetarians, SERV. And, every religion is based on compassion and justice and sharing and, being involved, reducing poverty and hunger. So it's definitely consistent. But I argue in the Jewish books, there are 6 mandates, and this is true for other religions as well, that point to vegetarianism, even more so veganism, as the ideal diet. People that take religion seriously. These are to take care of our health, treat animals with compassion, protect the environment, conserve natural resources, help hungry people, and seek and pursue peace. So every religious person, every person, because it's kind of crazy. You say it's madness and sheer insanity that animal-based diets, especially because that's one of the reasons I talk about a vegan revolution. There's so many plant-based substitutes for the animal products. Some of them have the look, the texture, and the taste so close to the meat product that people that have been eating meat for years and years can't tell the difference between the plant-based and the animal-based burger and other uh, so-called animal products.
And as long as the food tastes good and it can be made without cruelty, why wouldn't we indulge in
Uh,
plant-based foods?
Especially when there's so many negatives on human health, on the world, and there's water shortages, energy shortage. It requires so much more of that, and it's tragic that there's like an epidemic of disease out there. I'm now in Israel at a senior citizen retirement center. Wonderful, wonderful people, but there's so much illness. And every single day in the dining hall, they just serve lunch here. You can have meat, you can chicken, fish, all three. It's like criminal. That's why I think we have to challenge the doctors. They're very dedicated, but either they haven't been educated on the negative aspects, the health aspects of animal-based diets. You know, pop this pill or that one. To focus on cure. Again, great dedication, but we can reduce disease rates tremendously on a plant-based or vegan diet.
Now, you are right now in Israel, and that's a hub for veganism, isn't it?
Actually, Israel is the world center for veganism. 5%, which is not very much, but compared to 1 or 2% in some other countries. So it's the highest percent of vegans, and still so much more has to be done. And I'm working, and thank God there were so many other wonderful people out there trying. Matter of fact, as we speak, in almost a week, it'll be Earth Day, and I'm preparing through Zoom, Miracles of Zoom, what I call a teaching. I'm inviting many, many people, rabbis, animal rights activists, environmentalists, educators, etc., and even a number of Christians to get their perspective, to try to get this message out to as many people as possible. And I'm going to be following your footsteps in a way. I'm inviting some in, and we only have about 4 minutes each. So I'm telling them I'm going to start. Somebody's very helpful in getting links to Zoom and all to try to interview for a half hour or so once a week somebody who's really involved, and over a year, perhaps having interviews recorded and widely shared to get a view of so many people who are working for a more compassionate, peaceful, environmentally sustainable world.
And, religions that talk about being compassionate need to extend that compassion to the animals as well, because we
Yeah,
are all pretty much stewards of the planet. We're not really supposed to be the dominant, where I'll take everything I want and do whatever I want. We're supposed to be a little bit more, how do you call it, more evolved than that, and yet we're not.
absolutely. In the book of Psalms, chapter 145, verse 9, I think I have to say, it says that God's compassion is over all of his work, over all of his creatures. And it's a very powerful teaching in Judaism, probably other religions as well, that we are to emulate God as much as we can in terms of compassion and working for justice, sharing, all that. So very strong teachings on that. And in the Bible, it says you can't yoke a strong animal with a weak animal. You can't muzzle an ox while threshing in the field. In Judaism, it's also part of the Ten Commandments, indicated not only are people to rest on the Sabbath day, but animals as well. And in Judaism, it says you should not sit down to your own meal before seeing that if you have a pet, for example, is fed first.
Very powerful, very nice. Now you have a website which I will share, and on that website you have many papers, and you even have a section with Jewish recipes, right?
Not my own in terms of the recipes, but the Jewish Veg Society, of which I'm a president emeritus, has, and that's just Jewish Veg, one word, Jewish BEG, not org, of course. But I have a website with over 250 articles, many on hunger, all aspects, health and how animals are treated, over 250 articles. And I have the complete text there of my book, Judaism and Vegetarianism, the third edition, Judaism and Global Survival. So anyway, that is also at jewishveg.com in this case, then a slash, and then my last name, SCHWARTZ. And I want to just give you my email address, because if somebody would like more information or maybe to help work on this is the most critical issue of our time. It comes to climate change, and if there's not a major shift to vegetarianism, veganism, no way we're going to solve that. So anyway, my email address is veggierich, my name is Richie, at gmail.com. So that's VE, two G's, IE, then Rich, RICH, at gmail.com. And by the way, the issues are so strong that if anybody emails me at that address, I will send PDFs, the complete text of this book and the cover picture, because I want to get the message out, hopefully to start many respectful dialogues that will move people toward veganism, because the most important thing that a person can do for their health, certainly for the animals, for the environment, to reduce hunger, reduce wasteful use of resources, and even for reducing the terrible violence and the possibility of war in the world. Matter of fact, I came up with a slogan that the motto of the vegetarian and vegan movements and the motto of the peace movements, they should be one and the same. From John Lennon, all we're saying is give peas a chance.
Awesome.
So, yes.
Thank you, Dr. Schwartz, for being on the Vegan Pulse. I surely appreciate you. And I will have all the links to your website and to the book. Again, if anybody wants it, you could email Dr. Schwartz, or you can email me at the Vegan Pulse, and I will more than gladly share the PDF that Dr. Schwartz has so kindly agreed to share. Thank you, and stay well.
Thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure, and I wish you much continued success, because what you're doing is super important. Keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Vegan Pulse. I am your host, Nancy Arenas. Remember to follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you have a pulse, you have a purpose. Live vegan.